So today we are joined on the Thunder Laser Customer Spotlight by Ryan Drapela. Ryan, thank you for joining us.
Oh, no problem. Happy to be here. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Can you just start off by telling us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so I currently own two different companies. One is Droppella Works, and one is actually a YouTube channel called Cutting It Close. And with Droppella Works, we are a wood product company, and so we make we make personalized wooden gifts. They're usually small, they're shippable, and we sell those primarily on Etsy and Amazon and our own website. And those are gifts like cutting boards, charcuterie boards, piggy banks. And so we engrave on acrylic and wood, and we have CNC machines. And that business is what I started whenever I was 16 years old in my parents' horse barn. And I always tell people there's two kinds of horses, two kinds of horse people. There's the horse people that have a lot of money and the horse people that are crazy that have no money. We were the crazy horse people that had no money. And so I started that business when I was 16 to buy my first truck, helped put me through high school and college, and kept grinding it out. And by the time I graduated college, we did $1 million in sales on Etsy with the different wood products I was selling. And fast forward to today, I'm 29, and we've done a little over $10 million just on Etsy in wood product sales. And most of that is your typical hobbyist stuff like cutting boards, charcuterie boards. We make these wooden piggy banks, docking stations, very simple products, not complicated at all. And we have around 20 full time employees currently for that business. And then the other side, about 4 years ago, I started a YouTube channel called Cutting It Close, and I actually teach CNC machining on there. And so we started that, and now we're about 130,000 subscribers, and we're actually now supplying CNC users different materials, different bits, so they can go on their machines and click go. And so both of them kind of work hand in hand because the materials that I am using to make wood products to ship them out to customers, I am taking those exact same panels and products and shipping them out to other CNC users that want to make the same type of products. And so it's a really cool fix. And now we got 25 full timers and two different companies, and it's all about CNCs, and whether it's a router, CNC laser, 3D printers, all the above.
Awesome. Well, that's quite the journey from 16 to now, about 13 years. Let's back up just a little bit. You've said you've done a lot of simple products, and so I think
Yeah.
what a lot of people maybe don't understand a lot of times is simplicity sells. It doesn't have to be overly complicated. So could you talk about how you made the decision to go simple and then had so much success with it?
Yeah. So, and I don't know if it's a decision to go simple. It's all I knew how to do kind of thing.
Okay.
And I think, I always have a rule whenever I'm doing products or thinking of new products, and I sell online. So this matters a lot is if you cannot tell what the product is in a photo, then I cannot make the product. And so what happens is you end up making a lot of simple things because the photo is what sells the product. And that's why I've always just stuck with cutting boards and charcuterie boards. you know I'm a woodworker at heart, love woodworking, but I am not naive enough to think that there's, I'm not going to invent something new. Woodworking's been around for thousands of years. It's not like I'm going to invent something new. So, what is selling, and how can I make it a little bit better and sell that too? And usually, simple wood products sell. If it's complicated, it's probably not made of wood. So, and I take good pictures of it, and that's it. That's the business model. Find something that sells, make it better, take better photos, and sell it. And that's it. I mean, it's rather simple.
Awesome. Awesome. So I remember hearing about your story. I think you can correct me if I'm wrong. You said something about you had about $200 to your name, and then I think it was the phone doc that you came out with that did over $2 million in sales. Can you walk us through how that happened? Just
Yeah.
the journey and how you went from a product to mass production as, a young entrepreneur?
Yeah, yeah. So I'll never forget this. I had around 120 or $200 to my name, and at the time, now I did have a couple of pieces of equipment, but like all woodworkers, right? I buy the next
Sure.
shiniest object. I have more tools than sense, and I remember going. I thought of this one idea, and I had some scrap plywood sitting around, and I remember it very vividly. I'm sitting. I was going to college at this time, and so I would go to college Monday through Thursday, and then I would drive back Thursday 2 hours, and I would work Thursday night, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Wake up Monday morning, drink 2 Red Bulls from a local gas station, and drive back to college. And I would sleep in class on Monday, sleep on Tuesday, homework Wednesday, party Wednesday night, go home Thursday. And that was my life every single semester in college. That is what I did. And so I usually worked till about 3 in the morning. And I remember sitting there, I just got into an accident with my truck. Somebody ran a red light, T-boned me, and it was $1,100 to repair my truck. And it was an old beater, like should have totaled it, but I wouldn't let the guy total it. So, but I didn't have the money. I had cool, I had have a planer, I had a joiner and stuff like that, but I didn't have the money to do that. And so I'm sitting at my computer, 3:30 in the morning, bawling my eyes out, and this idea came to mind of this docking station. And so I went outside, cut one out on the scroll saw, had a CNC too, but cut one out on the scroll saw and came back inside and was like, this is going to be the next $1 million idea. And I put pictures up on Etsy of it. And within the next 6 weeks, we did $43,000 in sales. So I remember I put it up on Etsy October like 16th of 2018, 2019. Sorry, not 2018, 2019, 2016. Sorry. October, I believe it was 16th of 2016. And it ended up taking off. And I remember very vividly, I went to the lumber store, Houston Hardwoods, like 2 hour drive. And I got 5 sheets of plywood, 5 sheets of 1/2 inch Baltic birch, and it was $119.28. I'll never forget that. And I loaded up my truck and drove back, and those made those products. And I remember the very next weekend driving back over there, and I got 10 sheets. Then I drove back, and I drove back up there the next time, and I bought a whole bundle, and then I drove back. And it was just really cool because you're asking me like, how did I manage that? I always tell people, and the number one thing you might hear too as well, Sam, is I'm so worried. What if I get so busy I can't keep up? Or I'm not going to introduce this product because I'm worried I can't keep up with orders because this product is revolutionary, right? It's the best thing since sliced bread. If that's your fear, 99% of the time it's not going to happen, right? And if it does happen where you're so busy you can't keep up, you usually figure out a way to make it a lot faster. So for me, whenever I first did that, I was cutting out 6 in an hour, right? And by the time I finished, I was cutting out 50 an hour because I just kept improving and kept learning and kept getting it done, right? It requires effort and work, but that scaling was like, okay, I made one, can I make two? Okay, if I make two, can I make four? And it just happened just like that. And there's a lot of shipping, a lot of figuring out. And, I wish there was a secret sauce, but it was just a lot of hard work and figuring stuff out and hustling, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, I think there's no substitute for hard work, definitely,
Yeah.
and just putting your head down and doing it. And sometimes doing the scary thing, like you said, you can have your fears, but sometimes you just gotta push forward and work through them.
Yeah, I mean, the worst that can happen is you fail. Like, it's not like you're going to die. That's what I always tell people. It's like the worst thing that
Yeah,
happens is you fail. Like, and that's a gift. And so that's kind of how we've grown over the years, and how I have everything I have now is like I'm fearless in the fact that if I fail, that's the worst that can happen. Like, how to make money. You work hard and you make money. Like that's not a money thing. It's more of just like it's in your head. What if I can't keep up? What if I'm not good enough? It's like, well, what if you are? You never find out. And so
yeah,
that's kind of how I approach everything.
for sure. So from your first product, we'll fast forward till now,
Mhm.
and talk a little bit about lasers. So you
Yep.
have a Thunder. What model do you have, and what would you say you use it for most?
Yeah, so I have a Thunder Nova 51, and I actually use it to, we engrave cutting boards a lot. And so we're constantly use that to engrave walnut cutting boards. We use it to cut 1/8 inch acrylic for our piggy banks. And believe it or not, probably the number one use for it is we make these wooden thank you cards out of 1/8 inch Baltic birch. And so they, 1/8 inch Baltic birch, we engrave on the top, thank you so much. And then we cut it out and it's 3x5. And we do a handwritten notes on that. And so
Nice.
every order that we ship out gets a handwritten thank you note. And that's how I've been able to grow my business over time because we make a good product and we treat our customers right. And so we've written probably, I mean, tens of thousands of thank you notes on wooden cards because wooden cards you cannot throw away. So I use it for literally everything: engraving on wood, engraving acrylic, cutting acrylic. Um, Not really any keychains or anything like that. It's more occasionally some cups, but those are usually for friends and family, stuff like that. So most of the time, it's for wood products and acrylic.
I really like that idea of cutting out the cards out of wood. It makes it harder to throw away, easier to keep around and see, and possibly come back for some return business. So that's a very very good idea.
Yeah, yeah, and we actually have some of our customers. They have them all laid out, right? Because
Very
we'll
nice.
change the thank you on the back. We do a thank you and a funny saying, right? Like thank you, you're a cut above. Thank you, you're too sharp. Thank you, for supporting America, right? And then it, and then we write a personalized thank you message on the back, and people think that's not scalable. How do you keep doing that? It's like, well, somebody's paying you money and you're making orders. You probably have 2 minutes to write a thank you note. Like that's my
Very,
thing.
very much so. Very much
So
so. So, what would you say, in your experience with your Thunder Laser, is your favorite thing either about the machine or the company itself, whether it's the service, but just something that stands out to you about Thunder compared to others that you may have used?
yeah, so and I'll say it right now. I started off with epilogue lasers, and um, it's funny you joke about Thunder's service. I haven't had to use the service, which is a good thing, right?
Yeah.
That's great. They have great service, but a lot of times, there's companies like the other one I use that has really good service because they have to, because it, there's stuff that's always going wrong. I haven't had anything go wrong with my Thunder. And so I think that's for us, when we're running lasers 8 hours a day, like that's important. I think I really like the open end feature on it actually, because we're used to cutting up all of our sheets of acrylic and stuff like that. And now we can just fold down that front and actually fit a full sheet of acrylic in there. And then, we use up the whole sheet or Baltic birch, right? And we break off the ends, stick the sheet in there again. And so now we don't have to have a guy cutting up that material. Um, and, comparatively to my epilogues, which are like 3 times as expensive, it's not, production wise, it can handle its own. And so I just want to be, if anybody's listening to that, like that to me is important because they're going to make a big stick about how good they are, how much faster they are, how much better they are. They've broken down. I've had to replace parts. The parts are almost more expensive than a whole Thunder laser, and um, my Thunders can keep up 1 to 1. So I have been converted, as they say back in. But yeah, that open table in the front and the fact that I haven't had to use service has been great.
Awesome. Yeah, the pass through I think is one of the bigger features that most people point out, especially on those larger 51s, being able to, with an extended table or something holding it up, you can put that full 4x8 sheet in there and then just keep sliding it going through. So I
Yeah.
totally get that, and think that's probably is one of the better features.
And
Uh,
what I wanted, the dust extraction. I will say that the dust extraction is really nice. The not dust fume extraction, the
sure.
fan blade that's on the air duct. That's a great feature that I think if you've had other lasers, that's kind of an overlooked thing. That's kind of a pain in the butt, and they make it really easy, with that attachment. So
Yeah, for sure. So what would you say is next for you? I mean, obviously you've got a handful of different products, but whether that's with your lasers or with your YouTube channel or whatever, what do you see happening next down the road?
I don't think I'm gonna change anything. As far as there's not a new stick I want to do. If I've learned anything over the years, is that focus beats everybody else. And not new shiny objects. New shiny objects don't beat people. Doing the same thing that's right over and over again, over and over and over again, beat people. And so I'm just going to keep doing what the hell I'm doing, to be quite honest with you. I'm going to keep growing the YouTube channel, keep putting out videos that educates people. They educate, inspire, and motivate people to get out there, build something with their hands, click go on their CNC, click go on their laser, try to sell stuff, right? Like hustle, because that's the American dream, which I love. And then on the wood product side, we're going to keep making high quality products that will outlast me. And, is there a couple products up my sleeve? Yes. Can I talk about them? No, but they're done with the CNC or done with the laser or combined. And I
Sure.
think, the more you can use unique pieces of machinery to add value to product, I think the better off you are.
Sure.
So because it provides that wall, that barrier to entry that not everybody has, a laser, or not everybody has a CNC, or not everybody has a wide laser, and so they can't do wide cuts or bigger signs, and you have one, and so there's just so many advantages to having, I guess, modern equipment that I'm still a woodworker. I'm not a button pusher, right? It's very complicated still, but yeah. So as long as I keep growing in that, we'll see where the future takes us.
Awesome. So, one thing I like to ask everyone on here is just from your experience, giving a piece or two of advice to someone that's looking to um, either start a business or has one that's looking to take the next step. What would you say in your experience is something you can to share to those people?
Yeah. One, the like I said earlier, don't be so scared you can't keep up. You're not that lucky. And if you are, you'll figure it out, right? Or just raise prices. Like those are very easy problems to solve. You make more or you charge more. So like if that's the fear holding you back from starting, that's a silly fear. That's very easy to fix. There's plenty of other things when you run a business that are much harder to fix than production. Like just FYI. I would say what I think most people get wrong is that they try to really force a product to be sold. Um, and I I'm not discouraging creativity or anything like that. It's find something that are if you're going to start a business and you're really taking a risk, do not try to invent a product and have to teach people how it works, because you're battling like a whole bunch of different things there, right? You have to invent the new product, work out all the kinks, educate people on how and why it works, and then also maybe they don't need it or do need it, right? Like you also have to have a great product fit, and so you have three things that you have to really make work in your favor. Whereas if you pick a product that has already been selling, let's say engraving cups, right? People buy engraved cups, right? Which cups sell, there's a need for it. And so all you have to do is just take better photos or market it better. And so you're only focused on one thing instead of trying to explain to people why this is the best cup ever and why it's better than all the other cups out there because it's the one you invented and you spent 6 months trying to do all this stuff to. There's room for that. I just wouldn't do it. I wouldn't go on a limb on the very first thing. Like do something that works, and then beat people at just being better than them, at more focused than them. And so that happens a lot on laser and CNC. They just so many times like, well, Ryan, why do you sell cutting boards? Like we sell 7 to 10,000 cutting boards a year still. Like, oh my gosh, everybody makes cutting boards. Like, you know why everybody makes them? Because everybody buys them. Like, you know, now I figure out which ones people want to buy because I know people are buying them, but maybe they're not buying the striped one. Maybe they're buying one with this kind of engraving on it, right? And so I do that kind of engraving and take a little bit better photo. But I don't reinvent the wheel and try to figure out the next cutting board solution that isn't square. Like I don't do that. I'm in business. I'm not trying to be an inventor. So, there's a time I do that, but it's on my own time and I'm not betting the farm on it, if that makes sense.
And so you've had so much success, especially on Etsy. What's one thing if it's I don't know you've mentioned good pictures. Is that like the key you've found to not necessarily unlocking unlimited potential, but a lot of people struggle with or are intimidated by Etsy. Is there one thing that you can say works really well to get started?
Honestly, pictures are, like I said, that is the number one thing. We'll spend more time on photos than developing a product. Like we'll spend 40 to 80 hours on 10 photos, which is crazy. But photos are what sells on Etsy, right? You can't sell a gold bar on Etsy if you don't have good photos. Period. So that's one. Two, the second thing on Etsy is the same thing. Like, let's say you want to make $100,000 on Etsy, right? Well, don't sell underwater basket weaving kits. Like nobody's searching for that on Etsy. You have to find a product that's going to sell. So like signs, nursery room signs, nursery room decor, engraved whiskey glasses, right? And you go in that direction because that is something that people are buying and people are selling. And so there's a market fit, people want it. You just have to figure out how to present it to people so they buy it from you. And sometimes that's better photography. Sometimes that's a different engraving. Sometimes that's putting it in a nice box. But at least you're only worried about that. Now, on the other side, on the flip side, um, Etsy, people get scared because they're worried about getting kicked off of Etsy, or Etsy takes a certain fee, right? I never look at other people's prices. I never do that because you don't know if somebody else is in the middle of a pasture doing it. You don't know if they're in the middle of a barn. You don't know if they're retired and they're doing it out of their garage for fun and they're giving stuff away. You don't know if they're about to go out of business at that price. And so I never go off of anybody else's price. I do what makes sense for me. And if 30 other people out there are losing money doing that product, I don't want to be the 31st. And so I never price my product according to other people. And I always tell people to start an Etsy shop because it costs like $10 to start, $15. And the worst thing that can happen is you don't sell anything. That's it, which is probably what you'd sell anyways if you never started one. So it takes 8 hours to set up. And if you happen to sell something, great. If you don't, no loss because you weren't selling on anything. You weren't selling on it anyways. So start it. And if you are going to start it, don't try to come out with a new product that nobody's ever seen before and then take good photos. And once again, that's simple stuff that is very difficult to execute. But that's the most important.
Awesome. Well, I think what we can all learn from just listening to you and your journey is simplicity does sell, and couple that with really good pictures and a good work ethic, and you can have a whole lot of success.
We didn't talk a lot about production, right? Like, because I always say you're going to figure that out. You have to have a good product. I think Thunder makes a fantastic machine that you can depend on that. So, like, that's why we didn't talk about production much. We don't talk about how hard it is or how bad it is. Like, the laser makes it easy for you to do all of that stuff. The hard part is the stuff that people do not talk about, is like pictures and
Hmm.
good customer service, right? And reaching out to people and writing that thank you note. Like that's what makes a big difference over a long time period. And that to me, that's why I try to talk about that stuff a lot.
Well, I appreciate you joining us here. If you could, real quick, just tell everybody where they can find you, whether that's your products or your YouTube videos. Um,
Yeah, best spot to find me. Honestly, I actually don't even have social media on my phone, which is crazy. So I run a big YouTube channel and all this stuff. Just cutting it close on YouTube. So Cutting, cutting it close. Um, Look us up, and our website is CIC Workshop, and you can find us all there. And if you ever want to see any of my wood products that I make and sell for consumers, that is Droppella Works.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us. And again, anybody that's wanting to learn more about how the CNC and laser machines work, check out the YouTube channel. And again, thanks for joining us.
Yep. Thank you
All
for
right.
having me on.